Okay, so the build is Smite. It is not an autocast build, though there are a lot of things that are being autocasted. So you see all of these buttons down here. Um, my devouring orbs are autocasted. My healing hands are autocasted. My symbols of hope are autocasted. And my anomaly isn't really autocasted, but I hit Q once, and it's just with me the entire time. Javelin was working. Javelin was in fact great. It was fantastic. There were like a lot of things that I could do with Javelin, but Javelin is really easy. So Javelin in the early game is really, really easy to scale because you have so much built-in damage and clear in Javelin. And Javelin later in the game is insanely tanky and is insanely good scaling once you get like a good weapon. Javelin in the middle, when you're like starting monoliths, is awful. Like when you're starting empowered monoliths, um, your javelin damage just does not keep up with the champions, and particularly the champion monsters. You want to one be able to tank and two be able to completely nutterize. Enter Void Knight. Void Knight has some of the best built-in resistances and tankiness in the entire game. Just by virtue of being Void Knight over Paladin, gives you less damage taken here, less elemental damage taken here, along with less void damage taken. Eventually, these two alone is a strong enough consideration to take Void Knight in terms of tankiness. We get our crit, we get everything else, and more importantly, we can scale vitality for our damage. So we're converting smite scaling into void, and we're scaling vitality. We're scaling vitality for our health, so we have more health. If you saw me last time, I had 2,000 health, now I have 1,000 more at 3.1k HP. And the skills are as follows. So our main skill that I'm clicking, the reason I stand there and then like go ha 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 as I'm like just walking through is fucking smite. I'm literally holding smite on my right click and I'm holding WASD for movement. Devouring Orb exists almost solely as a buffer for Smite. However, Devouring Orb also just does shitloads of damage on account of having void damage on impact and 200% more collision damage. So we're running around. This is auto-casting while we're moving, and while we're not moving, it doesn't cost Devouring Orb. The beauty of why Smite is great right now is Healing Hands. So Healing Hands is both my mobility skill and my sustain. So every single time I cast Smite, I cast Healing Hands. Healing Hands costs 0 mana, and Healing Hands heals me for we just did the math. 90 instant health and 160 health over time, over 3 seconds. So you are healing your entire health bar roughly every single server tick. And it's automated, but it's also your traversal skill. Like, this doesn't affect your indirect cast of Healing Hands, so when you smite cast it, you're still using Healing Hands. But when you're not smite casting, you need a traversal skill, you use Rai's Chariot. And it always casts on you with this, so this is automated for damage, this is automated for healing, and this is automated for more damage. Symbols of Hope. This one's like pretty self-explanatory. You have Symbols of Despair, which gives you more void damage or increased void damage. This gives you increased damage. This gives you crit. This is kind of just a travel node. Really, the part you care about is this top left section right here, where you just get a truckload of damage right here. The CDR is nice. You're never casting it. The endurance threshold is really nice. It's honestly kind of useful, considering this is 150 extra in endurance threshold. And then you have more healing, you have more healing, and you have CDs for all of your other skills thanks to Anomaly, where you get cooldown recovery speed, and the time bubble, and more damage, and more crit. And the biggest thing with Anomaly is Mark of Rot. So this is effectively just 50% more damage they're taking. But yeah, that's the idea. You're running around, you're holding Smite. Smite is literally just built entirely to deal as much damage as possible per click. And then you're just smiting, moving, smiting, moving, smiting, moving. And every time you cast Smite, you're also healing, and you're also at this optimal range. Like, you want the Devouring Orb to hit like whatever rare enemy you're fighting. And then like if you need to move, you're just healing hands. So you're like smiting. I need a target to show you smite, and then like you're just healing hands. But yeah, that's the build. This is the gear right now. My helmet and my body armor have 3 affixes. I don't have a 4th affix because I don't know what I want to put in there. Right now what we're planning on doing is this. Get Brewmasters, scale way more vitality than I currently have because I have the bare minimum, and the bare minimum entry level vitality for this is 90 vitality. You don't want less than 90 vitality. The bonus is, yeah, like not too meaningful, but it's still like a lot of damage, particularly like this early on. And you have like global void damage. Global void damage is huge. Hey, how's it going? So while editing the footage, I figured I should talk about the gear a bit more and explain my choices. But the TLDR is you're looking for vitality and you're looking to cap crit and you're looking for high cast speed in terms of damage across all of your slots. You're looking for whatever high tier exalted gear you can find. And this is the best base. There's like all the slots that don't have uniques. None of the uniques really match up to just having like a good, well-rolled exalted base. This is probably the notable exception where you can have another symbols, you can have a sun seal. If you have like a red ring or like whatever, be creative with this. But this could be a unique. Barring that, pretty much everything else is something I would keep on its own, except this. This Crystal Skull is a notable exception because the Crystal Skull was mostly there for crit chance, but the crit chance isn't necessary once we get Grasp of the Blood Mage. The main difference is the change in passive tree crit. Grasp of the Blood Mage giving you +4's base spell crit. The base spell crit, along with the base crit on Smite, along with the base crit in your passive tree for Void Knight, means that this is no longer necessary. You can also spec into crits on Symbols of Hope if you need it, and you can spec into crit on Anomaly if you need it. But honestly, if you just have Exalted Crit, like here, if you have an Exalted Crit weapon instead of Exalted Spell Damage, you'll still have 100% crit chance on your Smite, which is like the main part that you do care about. Barring that, Inheritance of the Erased is the best in slot base. I think with the changes to idols, Nihilus is still good, but Omnis for me has lost a lot of value because a +1 to skill doesn't really do enough, and I would rather have the 12% increased health. And you can roll a lot of really good, obviously, base affixes on this. Best in slot isn't even crit chance. I would say the best in slot is probably a high amount of health or a really high amount of void penetration. Brewmaster, there is literally no competition. Brewmaster is just the single best belt you can put on this character. There's really not a whole lot to add to this. It gives you vitality, it gives you endurance, both incredibly core stats. It has like really decent base armor for like its roll ranges. Slam this with high health and you're good. If you haven't capped your reduced damage taken as crit, you can do that here as well. But health, in my opinion, is the best. Again, reminder, you want percentage health because you're stacking vitality, which gives you a lot of flat HP. The most contentious part of the build is probably Grasp of the Blood Mage. By the way, cast speed is just the best thing you can get on this. There is a case where, like, if you need the resistances more, you go for hybrid health, but frankly, even with cast speed, the more cast speed you have, the more you're healing, so cast speed is still a defensive layer as well, because you're healing handsing every single time you're casting Smite. So Grasp is best in slot. Grasp gives you spell crit chance. Grasp gives you spell leech. And Grasp, like, this one has cast speed. But the most important line of Grasp of the Blood Mage is that hit damage taken from bosses and rare enemies is dealt over 4 seconds instead. Now, the biggest contender for this slot is a Ravenous Void, right? So let me just pull up Ravenous Void for you. So the big thing with Ravenous Void is that it has incredible implicits, right? You love vitality, you love percent health, and you love the percent void damage taken, and the fizz damage taken as void is amazing for fizz damage mitigation. The problem with it is less void damage taken, the more of it you have. According to what I've seen here, and this could be incorrect, but even if this is, I'm still gonna stick with this, and I'll explain why in a second. But this could also, if you look at defenses here, you have 15 less DOT taken, and this has 17. But if you add this, you get a total of 14 more or less damage taken. So the more of a singular type of less damage taken you stack, the less effective it is. But with that in mind, since you already inherently have so much less damage taken on the Void Knight tree, I would stick to a Grasp of the Blood Mage instead. And again, offensively, I think this is way better. Particularly because it opens up the option of using a shield here instead, if you do need the defenses. I think the shield defenses are significantly higher if you need to fill things out than the Ravenous Void defenses. In terms of damage, it's potentially better, but that's only if you're using a Crystal Skull. So in that case, use your best judgment. It's notable that Grasp is also infinitely easier to farm out and find LPs of compared to a Ravenous Void. Generally, I wouldn't even consider either, because a pair of Eternal Gauntlets is so incredible with its implicit. But between the Relic and the Champion Regalia, you have enough armor applied to DOT that I think this is more replaceable on Sentinel than it is on other classes. Sunseal is just here for the points, because I want the little bit of extra crit I get on Symbols of Hope. If you want to replace Sunseal with something else, I would take the points out from Heavenly Justice. As far as updates on this character is concerned, I was playing this character in hardcore for the race, but unfortunately this character died at level 96. If you're wondering what it died to a server-side desync. And aside from that, I don't think there is anything that would have killed this character. Your mileage may vary, but as far as like defenses, I don't think I've seen anything else that's better. And yeah, you just like literally run around, hit one button, and then when you like encounter a rare enemy, you hit another button, and you just like anomaly on them. That shit, if anything gets hit by this shit, just takes infinite more damage, and you just do infinite damage. But right now, this is arguably the best thing I feel like I can be doing. So this is what we're working on. And like, it feels really good. Like, you're just zooming, and everything around you is just exploding and dying. Like, your Smite is casting, and it's, like, double casting off of Smite itself, and then you're echoing, and then the echo can, like, double cast and Smite, and, like, it's all multiplicative, so you're just, like, casting, like... Everyone gets a Smite. You get a Smite. You get a Smite. You get a Smite. And then you walk up, and you put your balls on their face.